Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about how Disney got grilled by the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes.
Yes, so the government is asking Mickey some questions, or Bob Iger more specifically, and we talked about this, that this was going to happen, that they're kind of going around Hollywood and asking studios like what their connection is to China.
Yeah, Hollywood and Silicon Valley, they were asking executives, what they censor, what they change. Do they self-censor before they even create something to appeal to China?
And a lot of this is, coming on the heels of anti-China backlash, most specifically TikTok, I think, has kind of kicked this off again. A lot of people have been looking at Disney for years in regards to their relationship with China. Of course, they have theme parks over there, and Bob Iger notoriously has a very good relationship with the CCP.
That he was determined that Shanghai was happening. I mean, I remember when Shanghai was opening, he didn't even come back when that little boy got killed by the alligator.
Yeah.
He stayed there, probably because he promised the CCP he'd be there. And we even have an example of that they were actually hiring specifically CCP people for jobs in Shanghai.
Yes, that I do know is true. That they actually have people have the CCP identifier on their desk.
According to an article they put it out in news in China, that the CCP are the hardest working people they have at Disney parks in China.
According to the Chinese government's working real hard for its people. So we're going to talk about this because, again, this is starting to ramp up now because of all of the, how are they going to spin it? The geopolitical climate. We had the macroeconomic headwinds. Now we have the geopolitical climate. And, Disney really at this point needs to kind of count China out. I think a lot of Hollywood studios need to count
they
China
can't
out.
though, because a lot of movies aren't doing well in China, but Avatar did. So they're going to triple down on that.
I was going to bring that up. We're going to bring that up.
I know you're going to bring it up. That's why I brought it up first.
Yeah, so it looked like Disney wasn't going to, pander to China anymore because a lot of their movies failed or they weren't allowed to be released. But then along comes Avatar 2, and it makes the bulk of its money, I guess, in China. So we're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
We do talk a lot about Disney, having worked in and around the company for a number of years. Different capacities, contractors, respected members of the Mickey media, which is kind of like working with the CCP because you gotta watch what you say. This is right here. Like, if they just text you this, that means you said too much.
Yeah.
No. This has been going on for a while. Actually, it's really ramped up. I mean, we did a story a couple of years ago. That U.S. Attorney General Barr was accusing Disney of kowtowing to China, and let's not forget that Walt Disney hated commies. Let's just put that out there. Like, Walt Disney would not agree with what is going on.
Well, according to Bob Iger, that to balance your company values, and that Disney's doing so well because it still maintains its core values from when Walt was there.
Yeah.
So this is a bipartisan committee. Yes. And the only person that's talking to the media I know of is the chairman, which is Mike Gallagher. And I guess they interviewed these different people, which we talked about how they were going to do. Now, they said they're not going to legislate Hollywood, that I'm not sure what the point of this is. But I do know, we've mentioned in videos before, that the Pentagon has a special unit that works with Hollywood if you want to use like military stuff or that you have to go through it. And recently they put more caveats in place because of China. But they said they're not trying to legislate films, but they're just trying to understand why basically Hollywood either censors themselves because what the Chinese censors say, or from the get-go, how much do they just self-censor from the beginning when they have a movie idea in regards to casting, in regards to story, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from this. We've seen it before. There's certain movies that you're like, oh, they did this or they did that, probably because of China, probably because of overseas audiences. And he flat out said that, talking to these studios, they do self-censor a lot of things. Like, they already know basically what they can and can't get away with in China. Or they will do like they did with Fantastic Beasts, where they'll have, a gay scene with Dumbledore, but you can easily cut that out. And Disney's going to do that. So for all this talk about Disney being pro-LGBTQ plus, they've got explicitly gay moments, Disney's explicitly gay moments that they can easily chop out of movies for China.
And apparently for China, it's not good enough. CCP is not good enough just to chop in China. They want that to be the global release. And you do have to agree that being your global release too, not just their version.
Yeah, so there are a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And it was, look, I mean, financially for the longest time for Disney, it was worth it to play ball because they were making money hand over fist in China. They were making, some of their movies were making more money in China than they were in the US, you know. Avatar seems to be one of those movies that's making ridiculous money overseas. So they're not going to back down from this. Now, I think if Avatar had landed with a thud in China, they would have been like, yeah, well, they're not running our Marvel movies now and they don't care about Star Wars. But, you know.
Hot damn, we still have Avatar.
Hot damn, we still have Avatar.
But here's the thing, too, you know, with the whole thing with like Disney and Bob Iger specifically. When he wanted to run for office, or when the new regime came in, let's put it that way, he thought he was going to get himself an ambassadorship to either the UK or China. Yeah. Because he is up China's ass. It's ridiculous. Like I told you, I'm not making it up. There was a job listing specifically for Shanghai. And it says, this is the listing. They're talking about a party union youth league office, according to job listing. Among the roles, responsibilities are designing and coordinating party and union activities, operating the party and union bulletin board, and maintaining daily operations of social media platforms. CCP membership is one of the job's requirements. Yeah, that was a Disney job in Shanghai. And they are not required by China to hire CCP people. But they say that publicly, but you know damn well they're required to hire them. They want to be in good with China.
I'm sure.
It's a lot easier. Sure. Things get approved a lot faster when you give them a little Mickey wrap around.
So look, I mean, the weird thing about this is Disney, the company itself, sort of operates like the CCP, where they might not explicitly tell you can or can't say things or whatever, but they operate very much like this. Like, you're supposed to know what you can and can't say. You're supposed to stay away from certain controversies. You're supposed to, always put the company first and think about the company. And you can tell who the favorites are at Disney, if somebody's an approved Disney person or not. And it does work very much like CCP.
Now, something else I found very, very interesting about this interview was the fact that Gallagher had said that he basically asked all of them about the genocide in China. He said he asked everyone he asked. So I'm assuming that I'm sure he asked Iger this question. He said, the other thing that surprised me is just how there's a genuine fear of reprisal in Hollywood. I posted the question at one point, if you're asked in public, is there a genocide happening in Xinjiang? I don't know. How would you answer that question? Everybody that I posted that to admitted they would be very reticent in answering it honestly, because they know that they wouldn't be, it wouldn't be just China retaliating against the particular movie production. They would retaliate against the studio like they do with other people would. You'd have to apologize. So they literally said they would not speak out if they saw genocide happening, because it might mean that the studio might not be allowed to run movies in China anymore. They flat out said this. And then this is obviously geared at Disney, because they're the ones that got in trouble over Mulan for this.
Yeah, so, and we've seen the CCP come down on Disney. I mean, look at what happened to Marvel. Marvel was, Marvel's doing very well in China, and then they had the director of the Eternals, and then they had the star of Shang-Chi come out and say stuff against China, and next thing you know, no, we're not running your Marvel movies anymore.
And then they said, because you remember the Mulan thing, they rewrote the movie to appeal to this Chinese, committee. Mm-hmm. Then after the movie came out in China, the media were told not to cover it. And then Disney got in trouble because it turned out it was filmed near that re-education
camp, yes. Where nothing is going on there. Just everybody's having fun, having picnics.
What people? There's nobody there. No, I'm sorry. But anyway,
sorry.
What you're talking about. The CCP, they thank the CCP in their credits, to which Christine McCarthy said, it was common knowledge to thank the CCP. You knew you had to thank them, that it was fine to thank them. But they said that what was interesting to me was they talked about that they knew about it. But they said it was a producer-director decision, but the higher-ups didn't know. Bullshit. I don't buy that for 1 minute, that the higher-ups didn't know that they were filming near there.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if Bob Iger made a couple of phone calls
As much as they're up China's ass, they're even hiring people to be CCP mouthpieces for their social media and stuff for Shanghai Disneyland. And China's restrictive in what you can do. The higher ups didn't know what the director and producer were doing.
Yeah, they knew. So, so this is what this Gallagher said about Disney in regards to the re-education facilities. Obviously, that incident created a lot of controversy. I think a lot of my constituents thought, what the heck? Why is Disney, who all of our kids love, why are they bowing down and thanking regional officials for their help when these regional officials are complicit in genocide? Can I say that on YouTube? It seems like an un-American thing to do. Disney claims that having seen the blow up in their faces, they changed their processes. That was a decision made by the director or producer. Higher headquarters at Disney didn't approve it. Yeah, we'll see. Now, they know the game. And this is how Iger basically took a shortcut to get Disney to the top of the heap with the movies. They're like, you kiss China's butt and they will run and promote your movies, and they'll let us put our theme parks in their country. And of course, the rides in their country are based on the movies. Pirates based on the Pirates movies with Johnny Depp, because those were huge. I think that's when Disney really got a taste of it, because Johnny Depp is huge overseas, and they were like, okay, we can make a lot of money, because people are like, why are they making more Pirates movies? Because it was declining returns. Like the first two did really well. Third one I don't think did as well, and then 4 and 5 didn't do well here at all. But they made a ton of money in China. Right. A ton of money.
And then we saw the same thing, like some of the not just Disney, Hollywood does it. Yeah, Transformers. Yeah. They made like the Chinese military the heroes.
They bring that up.
And then Top Gun Maverick, they bring that up too, about they had the Taiwan flag on his coat. They made him take it off. Yep. But the thing is, they could have run that over here, but then they take it off for all the versions, or just the one in China?
I'm not really sure, because I don't think Top Gun ran in China.
Well, it didn't, but they took the thing off his coat. So I'm like, that's just what I'm saying. Because basically the Chinese government says you can't just censor for them. You have to censor things they don't like for everybody's release. And it's like, who the fuck do they think they are telling us what we can do? But then Hollywood's letting them. Hollywood's setting the precedent because they're so afraid they're not going to get their money.
Yeah, that's what the whole thing's about. Hollywood's looking at this and they're like, okay, there are a lot of people in China. A lot of people who are going to go to the movies. But what's going on now is China is dampening Hollywood releases, and they're promoting their own releases.
And they don't even, Hollywood, they said a lot of the studios don't even bother releasing in China anymore because there's no point.
No, there really isn't. I mean, and all the hoops you have to jump through. I mean, the Transformers movies, that was another one that people were like, these movies don't make money anymore. The first couple made money, and then it was declining returns. It's like, oh yeah, but in China they're huge, so let's make
China.
And
then you could clearly tell they got a lot of Chinese money for that movie, and then they were like, because they made the whole movie pandering to China.
The only Star Wars movie that did well in China was Rogue One, because it had a Chinese star.
Yeah, but he was awesome in that movie.
He was very good. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you can tell. It's so obvious the Transformers movie is like, blah 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 plot, and all of a sudden, like, here come some Chinese actors, and they spend a lot of time on close-up shots of these Chinese actors. Like, you're supposed to know who they are, and then here comes a Chinese,
Well, they said even there you don't see Chinese villains in movies at all.
Yeah, he did bring that
up.
He
said that because there's never a villain that's it's fine that there are different other nationalities, but not that. This focused very heavily on Disney because everybody knows Iger kisses China's ass, even though he says he doesn't. He does. And they even said, like, his logic for why he had to open Shanghai Disneyland, which I remember when it was opening, all the media was talking about his legacy, and he was making his big priority that he had to be there and everything else.
Yeah.
He told the committee that the reason he does it is because it's like planting an American flag on Chinese soil, and somehow those parks are going to change China. And the guy's like, in all these years, it hasn't changed jack shit. It's like bull.
So let me tell you why they really built the parks in China, as I understand it. It was to make sure that there wasn't as much knockoff Disney merch in China. So they built a park in China to plant their flag in the Chinese copyright system, however that exists over there. Because there were literally bootleg Disney theme parks in China. They were off-brand Disney theme parks. They're like, fine.
Sometimes they were better.
Sometimes they're better, right? But they built the Shanghai park, as I understand it. Hong Kong and Shanghai were to try to deter them from knocking off Disney, because we're going to give you a real Disney park. That was my understanding. Plus, there's just a lot of people over there And it was, their parks are focused on the movies. But you can see the changes. Like even in Hong Kong, they don't have a haunted mansion because ghosts.
No,
you're not allowed to do that. So they have
Mystic Manor.
Mystic
Manor I actually like a lot.
Oh, yeah,
like,
Mystic Manor's
I've never ridden it, but I've seen the ride-through videos, and I love it. I mean, it's a lot of screens, but it's really clever and cute. And I can see them doing something like that with Journey into Imagination if they brought Dreamfinder back. But, it's interesting, though, because now I'm not understanding to what end that this committee is doing this, though, because they made
Posturing.
sure they said, they said that they aren't legislating Hollywood. They kept saying that. They said, if you want to, basically they said, if you want help from the U.S. government, then I think the United States government has a right to say, okay, then we don't want your movie to be pro-CCP, anti-American propaganda. And I guess that's in regards to, they change, complete sections of films, or that, American military were bad, stuff like that. Kids, you can't show protest because they don't like protesting. I mean, shocker, right?
What?
I'm just like this whole thing, but what they're focusing on, what the media is focused on, is Iger. He's not the only person I talked to.
They brought in the guy from the NBA too, and look, but yeah, they're not going to do anything. And I think a lot of this, what's reigniting this, is the whole TikTok controversy now, because they're trying to look like they're doing something like, hey, Americans, we all got your back. We're going to go talk to Disney.
I don't know. I know, right? We're going to talk to Iger.
We're going to talk to Bob Iger.
But it's funny to me. They immediately went there because they were the center of the controversy with Milan, and everybody knows that Disney kisses China's ass.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. It's like common knowledge. Oh, we changed procedure. I'm like hell you did. I mean, I'm sure you changed something so you didn't get caught or you didn't get in trouble again.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to change things for Disney in the fact that they were, for the under Chapek especially, like everything was banned basically. They weren't getting Marvel movies in, and so it didn't really matter. But now that Iger's back, now that
Iger will willingly take stuff out that'll piss off the CCP, so it'll get aired. Absolutely.
Now that Avatar is the number one release in China this year, they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? Hey, and isn't it interesting that as soon as Bob Iger came back into power at Disney, all of a sudden the water got turned back on. All the Disney movies were starting to get re-released.
Well, it sounds to me like Chapek wouldn't just give them what they wanted.
Yeah.
Which in that way you kind of think that you'd want that, and then Iger's like, "I'm back, bitches. Let's go."
So
I'll pull up my little plaque, my CCP plaque, and put it on my desk.
So Mario bombed in China, and the tinfoil mouse ears. That is Disney's direct competitor, Universal. Could it have been arranged that it wouldn't?
It wouldn't have got run at all, though, if that was the case.
That's
to be
true.
fair, I don't think that's the case, because if it was like that, he would have made sure it didn't get released in China at all.
Yeah, so I'm kind of
I think they're over American movies.
I think so too. I think they are too. And in the case of Mario, it's like, weren't they cracking down on kids playing video games in China? So
they weren't they?
It's like, yeah. So I don't know. But it was interesting that Mario's going to become this huge, massive hit everywhere else, but it couldn't even crack China. So China's less lucrative. But again, we have the Avatar factor, and then that makes up for, because it's $1 billion. Right. And they've got 3 more of these movies coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know anybody over here that's actually seen Avatar other than to review it.
Yeah.
But it was huge overseas. So, there's definitely an incentive to
kiss China's ass.
To kiss their ass, yeah. All right. So, anyway, we'll watch what happens. I don't expect much to happen. The only way that we're going to see it stop is if the government's like, we are done. Federal government's like, we're done with China.
They're not going to. They said they weren't trying to legislate it, but they basically are saying, we're not trying to legislate Hollywood, but we're going to, if you want to use our, the U.S. government as part of your film, you can't be, doing stuff to pander to China.
Yeah.
That's basically what he was saying. Because otherwise it makes no sense like why they're doing this at all. But all these Hollywood people that they talked to and Silicon Valley people they talked to admitted that if they saw something, they'd say nothing. Yeah. Because they didn't want to make China upset. That's what made me upset. And damn well he asked Iger. He's like, all the people I asked. He asked Iger.
Yeah.
And off the record. And then
record. Yeah, it's I think this whole thing was basically, we went and we had a talking to Bob Iger and some other people in Hollywood too, but mostly Bob Iger, because we know he is in their back pocket.
Well, what else do they turn a blind eye to if they know is wrong because they don't want to make somebody mad?
That's a whole nother video, a whole nother conversation. We probably can't even talk about it here on the channel. Are we going to wrap this?
Demonetized, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up?
Yep.
Okay, so please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Help support the channel. go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.